Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast with Sam and Casey. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Casey.
I'm Sam. Let's get screaming.
And let's get screaming as we are joined in the basement by the director behind the cult classic Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, Lee Demarbre, which is playing tonight, if you're listening to this, when this episode comes out at the Sioux Falls State Theater as part of our late night at the state event.
Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter is the heartwarming tale of Jesus of Nazareth returning to Earth to team up with a luchador and save lesbians from daywalking vampires. Welcome to the show, Lee. How's it going?
Okay, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
you guys
absolutely.
are very good at what you do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's easy when you're talking about a movie that we legitimately love, like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Well, you clearly have good taste in movies.
Yeah,
I gotta give a little backstory on this. So last year on Good Friday, we did a double feature on our podcast discussing two movies. One of them was Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. The other was The Velocipaster. So that was our double feature we did on the podcast. It was our first time watching that movie, and we fell in love with this movie watching it.
How did you watch it?
The same friend that Sam mentioned buying his poster from behind him owned a copy of the DVD of the movie and was like, "You guys have to watch this movie."
Yep.
I only asked because when I finished the film, we shot it on 16 millimeters, spent a lot of money shooting on 16, finishing the 16. Like the sound mix alone was $12,000. It was stressful how much money we were spending to finish the movie. But when it came to putting out a screening copy for film festivals, I only spent $200 on a lousy VHS transfer, and the DVD is made from that lousy VHS transfer, which is just makes my skin crawl. So there's a Blu-ray now. If you can get an HD copy of the movie, it's slightly better, only slightly better. But it makes it, at least it looks like it was shot on film.
Yeah. I don't know, like there is something about that DVD quality though that like adds to the I don't know. Sometimes when you're on a format, like Casey and I are both VHS heads. And sometimes when you're on those formats that are maybe a little grittier and a little, not quite as clear on picture and sound, sometimes that enhances the experience.
I get it. It's just a lot of people think it was shot on VHS because of it. And I had I had my camera right over there in the other room that I shot the movie on. This little 16 millimeter Bolex camera. No battery. We wound it up and shot with it. And it's a beautiful little movie camera, and I just want people to appreciate we shot it on 16. But I'm just glad you watched it and you enjoyed us for as much as you could.
Yeah.
Well, lucky for us, we're going to watch it in the best format possible in a historic theater, and it's going to look incredible on the big screen.
That's right, and it's HD, so I think I sent the HD copy of the movie, so good. We have a new scan. The National Archives of Canada did a new scan of the 16 millimeter print. It hasn't been color graded, but it should look pretty good.
That's awesome.
It doesn't make the movie better. It just should look pretty good.
So I got to ask, Lee, going back to this movie, to original concept, where do you come up with the concept for a movie called Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter?
It's funny. It started with the title. I was the writer of the film. Ian Driscoll and I were driving to Toronto from Ottawa, which is a 5-hour drive. I rented a van, and I was buying a 16 millimeter Steenbeck from a filmmaker in Toronto by name John Smith, who directed some classics. And he also directed a movie with Michelle Pfeiffer, the Classroom movie, with Coolio sings the theme song. What the hell is that movie called? Anyway, so I bought this 16 millimeter Steenbeck from him. It was a big machine, and we lugged it all the way back to Ottawa. I still have a piece of it all over my house. And I cut all of Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter on it. But before I cut Jesus, I was finishing a movie called Harry Knuckles and the Treasure of the Aztec Mummy.
Yeah.
And while I was driving to Toronto in the winter, in the snow, piled up to our tits. We bought this machine, and Ian said in the car as a joke, the 4 words together, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. I don't know why he said it, and I said, that sounds like a good movie. Just the title alone. And so he wrote that script. And I got to say, when you make an exploitation film and you can't afford to have movie stars in your movie, if you can't afford Brad Pitt or John Travolta or whoever makes you want to go see movies in the theater, you need like a good title. You need to have explosions, and you need to have boobies, and you need to have kung fu and fire and everything that makes the exploitation genre something we love. And a good title goes a long way. If you don't have a movie star and you want everyone to look and notice your movie, a good title goes a long way. And the best thing about Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter is that title that Ian came up with. I'm about to start making my 9th feature film based on a title I heard that I thought would make a good movie.
Nice.
My last film was a drag queen movie, kung fu movie called Enter the Drag Dragon. And in that movie, there's a character named Dick Toes. And Dick Toes just came about because Elliot Fauquier, who plays Dick Toes, mentioned that as a joke, those 2 words together at a bar. I said, that sounds like a good character. Now it's becoming a whole movie, so I'm making a Dick Toes movie now. He's a private detective who has 10 dicks or toes. And so that's that movie. But anyway, Jesus came about the same way. Good title started everything, started the ball rolling. Steven Spielberg says, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. Well, fuck that guy. Because it started with the title, our time around. Twice now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that it just honestly came from just 4 words getting mashed together. And it's a beautiful thing when a movie like this zany comes together. You have some big sequences in this, including a musical number, a giant fight sequence with a clown car full of atheists. What was it like on like such a like small budget, getting those big set pieces with all those extras together and doing that?
I kind of feel like we needed to do that. I'm a big fan of Russ Meyer, and I particularly was when I was making that movie. And I really like how fast-paced Russ Meyer's films are. And I wanted to make something that, as fast-paced as a Russ Meyer movie. And I also have to think about when I graduated film studies. I took film studies you can't tell watching the movie, but I studied film for 4 years at Carleton University here in Ottawa. And when it ended, I thought to myself, what the fuck am I going to make? Sorry, I don't mean to swear so much.
No, you can swear. Yeah.
My dog's not here, so I'm allowed to. She doesn't like it when I say the F word. She knows there's something wrong. Anyway, after 4 years of studying film, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought, what kind of movie am I going to make? I love everything. I love kung fu movies. I love wrestling movies. I love musicals. I love comedy and action. Why don't I put all that into one movie? And the other thing about the movie, I wouldn't say it's not even a low budget movie. I'd say it's a no budget movie. The money we spent making the movie was all in the camera. It was all the money I spent was on 16 millimeter. And so at my birthday and at Christmas, I asked my parents and my family and my friends, don't get me a gift. Don't get me a VHS tape of it. Just buy me a roll of film. And we only processed the film as we could afford it as we went along. So all the money, aside of that, the only thing I spent money on in front of the camera, on a prop, I spent $200 on Jesus's wig, because Phil didn't want to wear. He didn't want to wear a Halloween wig. He didn't want to wear a shitty wig. So I spent a lot of money, got him a good wig. On Enter the Drag Dragon, I spent a lot of money and got him a good toupee. But on Jesus, we got a wig, and I still have that wig. It's a good wig. Anyway. So it's a no-budget movie, and I learned this from my short films, Harry Knuckles and Harry Knuckles of the Treasure of the Aztec Mummy, both available on YouTube for free for watching. If you like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, in particular, Harry Knuckles and the Treasure of the Aztec Mummy feels like that. It feels like Jesus Christ Vampire. Santos is in it. Phil plays Jesus and Harry Knuckles, so it feels like another Jesus Christ adventure. It's what led into Jesus, but on those 2 movies that I made for no budget, I found if you set a lot of your movie outside, people can't tell it's a no budget movie. if you set it your movies indoors with no money, you're going to have shitty lighting and shitty sets. People are going to tell you're not even shooting on a set, like you're filming in your basement. But if you shoot outdoors as much as you can, you hide the fact that you got no money to make a movie. And that's what Jesus is. We just shot as much as we could outside. The only few scenes that are shot inside look like shitty sets. We shot in the basement of my apartment where I was living at one point for that fight between the second Jesus, because there's two Jesus in the third act, and Dr. Pretorius in the hospital. That was just we couldn't film in a hospital. We just had like this fake wall that had a curtain on it to make it look like a hospital. The ventilation shaft was horseshit. That was a ventilation shaft we built in my friend's base in his living room, and it was just one corner. He kept going around the same corner. So all that stuff looks really cheap, but the stuff outdoors, and most of the movies shot outdoors, looks like a real movie.
It does. Like, you had like this giant junkyard you guys shoot in. Like, is that just a like? Well, where did that place come from? Where did that location come from?
It's about a 10-minute drive from here. It's funny. We shot in that junkyard, and we just asked if we could shoot there. We didn't sign any waivers, and people could have gotten hurt. And I had to go get texting shots because I did trip on some metal and I cut my foot. The scene where the motorcycle jumps over Jesus. Yeah. I was sitting on my Bolex camera. I was sitting on a sunroof of a car that was trashed, and I was filming him go over my camera. And as I went up, my ass fell through the window. The window broke and cut my back up. And someone said I should go to a hospital. And then, before he jumps, there's a close-up shot of the wheel of the bike spinning out and rocks flying. We shot that outside of the junkyard because they told us we had to leave by 6. And when we got that shot, just outside in the parking lot, a car drove by and all the rocks hit a car. And the woman got out of the car. She was so mad at us. And I promised to pay for the damages. So it's all those little things that add up. Anyway, so yeah, again, I wanted to make our movie look like a big budget. So filming in a junkyard, it looks like if that was a Hollywood movie, they'd have to bring all those cars in to a field and make it look like a junkyard. We just shot in an actual junkyard. So that's a trick on how to make your no budget movie look like something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So both of the like the fight sequence in the park with the atheists and the dance number have tons of extras in them. And as people who are in the indie filmmaking scene, like, sometimes it can be hard to get extras. Like, it can be very difficult, especially where we are. How did you manage to wrangle up that many people for that? Was there, I don't know, incentive, like cookies or something on set?
No, there wasn't. The incentive is to be a movie star.
Yeah.
So all those atheists, they were all hungover. Because they're all just barflies. Like, I would go to the Dominion Tavern where we shot the scene where Jesus stakes a bunch of vampires with toothpicks and a blind man's cane. And so that's the bar where Phil and I drank every night for years. The entire time we made Harry Knuckles. The entire time we made Harry Knuckles and the Treasure of the Aztec Mummy. The entire time we made Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and Harry Knuckles and the Pearl Necklace, we drank every other night at the Dominion. And so Jesus took 2 years to make and to shoot, not to finish, to shoot. So for 2 years, everyone who came to the bar, regulars who knew that we were making this movie, and they all wanted to be a part of it. So I was like, okay, I got a date. And I set a date. We're going to meet in a park, and whoever shows up gets to be an atheist. So I didn't have any of the action scene planned. It probably shows. I'll just build an action scene around how many people show up. So we couldn't do it too early because drunks won't show up at 10. They won't show up at 11, but we picked 1, I think. It was at 1 o'clock. We all met there at 1, and they were all hungover. There were a few fellow filmmakers who were there. A few filmmakers I knew from Carleton and from IFCO, where I was making the movie with the Independent Filmmakers Co-op of Ottawa. So people I put out, I think I did a press release. I put posters around town. Want to be in a new cult movie that I thought no one would ever see. And so drunks and filmmakers showed up, and we got a truck, we got a van, and they all piled out, and it became a funny scene because a lot of drunks showed up. Now, if you see my new movie, Enter the Dragon, and I hope if people come to see the movie tonight and like the new movie, my new movie, Enter the Dragon, we shot a similar scene in the same park. So I did that same thing again, except they're not atheists, they're convergenists. They all, the movie's about a drag queen, and the drag queen's a hero, and these Christian convergenists show up in a park, and they want to convert them back to being straight. So they all surround my hero, and he's got cockchucks instead of nunchucks. And he fights them, and it's stylized the exact same way. A van pulls up, they all pile out of it's a truck, they all pile out of the back of the truck. They were all hung over, and we filmed another action scene. And it's in the same park, in the same location, with the same camera angles. It's kind of a remake of that scene. So if you like Jesus Christ Vampire, if you particularly like that scene, I kind of think it's everyone's favorite scene in the movie. Watch Into the Dragon because it has the exact same sequence. It's really fun.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah,
how does it feel going back to revisit that then? Like, did you think like, oh, I can improve this, or just was it more of an homage?
I don't know if I'm a better filmmaker than I was in 25 years ago almost. But I always wondered, because Jesus Christ Vampire was shot in 16 millimeter. And everything now is digital, right? Everyone's watching movies on their phone. They're watching movies on Netflix or Disney Plus, and everything looks the same. Everything is 4K. And I always wondered to myself, what kind of movie, how successful or not successful would Jesus Christ Vampire be today if it was shot in 4K digital? And I shot Into the Dragon 4K digital because I wanted to try that, a no-budget movie on digital. And so I want to do that scene again, just try it again digitally and just see what it looked like. See, what more we can do. What the big difference is that, with digital, I can shoot a sequence. And if I want to, that scene where at the end of the sequence of the atheist, one of them gets kicked in the foot, and an animation sequence where he goes across the grass and hits the tree. In digital, you can just speed that up. But on film, you had to we shot it frame by frame, like an animation.
Okay.
Frame by frame, so she goes across the grass just like it was an animated film because it was film. So it's like, it's funny, when Phil was on set of the new movie, he always looked at me kind of bored, and I say, do you miss the roar of the 60 millimeter camera? And he said, of course. He liked film more than digital because the camera made this noise. Digital doesn't make a noise, so there's no. It doesn't feel like there's any urgency to get a good shot in because there's no this noise. That's money. That's like coins in the going down each bank account. So I don't know. There's no. But I like the way Into the Dragon turned out. But yeah, 16 millimeter has a little charm to it. So going back to that location was fun. I got a house near that location, so for years I raised my daughter and took her to that park all the time. The play in the park with her. The location is pretty close to my house, and I love the location. It's beautiful. A lot of the people in the background were just like bums who were watching us film, and it's funny to watch in the background during that sequence and see people just like waking up who slept on a park bench and said, "What are they making a movie?" And there's a guy dressed up like Jesus Christ Vampire or Jesus Christ. No one knew who he was at the time. Anyway.
I want to talk about the Jesus Christ of all of this because this is one of the most accurate representations of Jesus Christ ever put to film. Like, as someone who went to Sunday school every single day and obviously heard all the stories of Jesus, like, how important was it to portray Jesus as Jesus on top of him being a vampire hunter?
Well, like, did you wear that Halloween 2 T-shirt to the church every Sunday?
No, I'm out of the Sunday school era now.
I also went to school at church every Sunday. I was raised a Catholic here in Canada, and but I'm not a practicing Catholic. Was certainly when I wasn't making that movie. But Ian Driscoll, one thing I told Ian before writing the script is read the New Testament. You owe the audience to read the New Testament, and he loved reading it. and he has no faith whatsoever, but he loved reading it. And it was more fun to make him more Jesus than just kind of putting a robe on and long hair on an actor. It was more fun for him, particularly, to write scenes based out of the Bible, the famous scenes. Like, we don't have a Last Supper, but blind, the parable of the lepers. How Jesus helped a leper. That was fun to incorporate. And our leper is a drag queen, transvestite, and so it was fun to sort of almost write the Third Testament, or at least try to tackle it like that, not to sort of, not to even think about the New Testament and making this movie would have been less fun to do. One of the first scenes we shot, the scene where the priest comes running out of the church, and Father Eustace runs out of the church, and he meets the Mohawk priest across the street. Like, that scene in the church, that wasn't the church we wanted to film in. I wanted to film on this church with had long stairs. And we asked the priest, can we shoot our new movie here? And he's like, okay, what's your movie about? He said yes first, but then he asked what the movie was. And I said, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. And he invited us into the church, and he closed the door, and he molested us. No, he closed the door and he explained to us what he didn't like about our title is that it's called Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. Jesus Christ is real, and vampires are not real. And that's the problem he had with our movie. And he said no to us in the end. And I thought, we're going to have a real hard time with this movie, that we're going to offend everyone trying to make this movie. And but we were trying to keep, he didn't want to hear it, that we were keeping it in, Jesus, like a real Jesus in mind when making the movie. Of course, he gets laid. Gets a hand job, I think, at one point in the movie. But he's like, if Jesus came around today. It was fun for Ian to write it that way, and I'm glad he did. And it was fun for Phil to play it that way too. It wasn't like, it's not that we weren't trying to be disrespectful, but the New Testament is a thing. You don't have to believe in Jesus, but the New Testament's real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you mentioned Phil. He joins a league of greats like, Matthew Modine, Willem Dafoe, Christian Bale, all these wonderful actors who have played Jesus, and I think you've cast the best one, frankly. What's it like working with Phil Caracas on this? I know he's a mainstay in your movies. Where did that working relationship come, and how did you decide for sure he was going to be Jesus?
I think about it a lot. I saw Phil 2 nights ago. I'm still really close with Phil. So there's 2 cinemas in Ottawa. There's many cinemas in Ottawa, but there's 2 single screen theaters in Ottawa. There's the Mayfair and the Bytown Cinema. I own the Mayfair with some partners, and he works and manages the Bytown and has been for 30 years, more than that. So we're kind of competitors in a way, but I'm always at the Bytown seeing movies with him and going to drink afterwards. So, but I started working at the Bytown shortly after I finished university. So I graduated in '96, and just before starting work there, I knew Phil from parties. He lived in a house where there was a lot of parties that were put on by the film studies department at Carleton University. So I took film studies at Carleton, studied film, and the group, the cool kids, belonged to a film club, and it was called something like, film studies, film for people who like to wear black. So you had to wear black to get into this club. And anyway, they liked me a lot because I like collecting movie posters. I worked at a video store. And so I went to these parties a lot. And it was at Phil's house. But Phil was scary back then. He had long hair and he was angry. He was always getting into the fights. So I was kind of shy of Phil. And then when I started working at the Bytown, we became friends and we started drinking together. And we started talking about movies. One thing about Phil, he's got great taste in movies. He loves movies. He loves foreign cinema, Canadian cinema. He's got it's funny. He's got a good sensibility when it comes to art. He can talk to you about paintings and sculpture from around the world. He's not a Philistine. He loves good movies. So he's an easy guy to get to know. And he's also really cool. And I can also notice about people liked him. Like, you guys never met Phil, but you like him. I kind of think the Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter works the same way The Room works. So we show The Room at the Mayfair Theater once a month and have been for 15 years. And I know Tommy Wiseau and I know Greg Sestero very well. I'm going to Japan next week with Greg Sestero. We're going to go to Hiroshima together to drop another bomb. I'm going to leave a DVD of The Room at Hiroshima. And so The Room, Greg Sestero often asks me, Lee, why does The Room work? Why do people like it? He doesn't know why people like The Room. And I think it's because of Tommy Wiseau. There's something about Tommy in the movie that seems like, and you meet Tommy or you see him at these screenings, that's the guy. He's the guy that you see in the movie. When you hang out with Tommy Wiseau in real life, you feel like you're in the room. And I think The Room works because people fall in love with Tommy Wiseau. And I think Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and Harry Knuckles films work for the same reason. And if you meet Phil, you feel like you're hanging out with Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. I remember when Sasha Grey, do you guys know who Sasha Grey is? She's an ex-adult film star who came to Ottawa to make a movie with me called Smash Cut. And Phil's in that movie. And Sasha Grey flew to Ottawa to be in the movie. And before she checked into a hotel, she went to the bar and saw Phil across the room. He was drinking at the bar. And she called me and said, Lee, Phil's here. And she was so nervous and shy to go meet him because she loved Harry Knuckles and Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and was just, there he is. You know, there's something about Phil, he's got this magnetism about him that Tommy Wiseau has. And it's so strong and palpable, you don't even have to make a good movie for people to love him in those roles. So Phil is, honestly, being with Tommy, like I said, if you're with Tommy Wiseau, you feel like you're in the room. And when you're with Phil, you feel like you're in Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter or Harry Knuckles. He is that guy. I guess the one thing that he is that doesn't come across in the film is, be able to talk about movies all day long with him. It's so fun going to bars, and it's fun watching movies with him too. He would come over to my house before we made Jesus and Harry Knuckles. He'd come over to my house often to watch Jackie Chan movies and Sammo Hung movies and Santo movies and nudie cutie movies made in Florida and exploitation films from around the world. So he's fun to be around, and he's super fun to point a camera at.
Yeah, we love him in the movie, and like I said, he is legitimately my favorite Jesus ever to be in any movie. And yeah, that magnetism comes off the screen, and that's what you need with someone playing, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Lee, last question for you. It's the last one we leave everybody off with. If someone's gonna watch Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, say at the Sioux Falls State Theater tonight, what movie would you pair with it for an ultimate double feature?
That's a very, very good question. Wow, I like that one. Good job, Casey. Santo versus Dr. Death. Because I love Santo, but that's the first one I saw. And it was on at 3:00 in the morning. So there's a television station out of Toronto, City TV, that showed Santo versus Dr. Death at 3:00 in the morning. I came home after a late night drinking with Phil, and I turned on my TV, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I was so shocked and I'm insane by this movie. Who's this character? He's a wrestler, but now he's in the airport and he's wearing his mask. Now he's driving a car and he's wearing his mask. In Canada, Mexican wrestling is not a big deal like it is in the United States. No one knows what it is. So a lot of Canadian audiences just thought he was deformed. They just thought he wore a mask because he was really ugly under the mask. But Americans, you don't have to set up the notion that he's a luchador because Americans know lucha libre. But in Canada, it's like, it's curling or hockey and nothing else exists. But so Santo versus Dr. Death changed my life. I think about it often. I've got an original theatrical poster for the movie now, which I love. And now it's on Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome, which I'm thrilled about. I get to show it at the Mayfair Theater, which is to me, it's like a dream come true. But at the time, it felt like it was the only movie. I felt like I was the only one who had seen it. I felt like it was my intimate relationship I had with this one movie. And that's the movie that made me want to put Santo in Jesus Christ Vampire. That's the movie that if Jesus is going to team up with who's going to help Jesus save the world? It's this Mexican wrestler named Santo. So that, to me, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter is Santo versus Dr. Death. There's many Santo movies. They're not all the same. There's the Santo movies that feel like Batman movies, and there's the Santo movies that feel like James Bond movies. Maybe I think Dr. Death feels like a James Bond adventure. It feels like he's out to save the world, and he does. That sequence at the end where he's hanging out of a helicopter and he jumps into a speedboat. He's got the mask on and he wrestles the guy. My God, it's cinematic. It's a fucking masterpiece. So if you're going to double bill Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter thing, and Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter or anything, I would say, first of all, don't be sober and team it up with Santo versus Dr. Death. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was invited. I made 2 films in Mexico, The Dead Sleep Easy and Vampiro Angel Devil Hero. And the first one, the Dead Sleep Easy, which was a crime film that Phil came with me to make in Mexico, in Guadalajara, Mexico. The financier watched Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter like a week before we were about to fly to Mexico and make this movie. And he called the producer, the financier, the guy who had all the money, putting all the money into this movie. He called the producer, Rob Menzies, and said, "Rob, you can't let Lee make this movie." And Rob said, "Why?" It's like, "Well, I saw Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter last night. It's terrible. Looks like it was shot in someone's basement. It was awful. You can't let that guy can't make a movie." I'm not disagreeing with the guy, but I called him and I said, I said, "Look, I don't want to say his name. I'm trying to say." I said, "Look, did you watch it sober?" And he goes, "Yes." "Did you watch it alone?" And he said, "Yes." It's like, "Please watch it again. Invite your friends over, crack open some beers or tequila or whatever you got, and watch it again." And a week later, we were in Mexico making that movie. So, so it is really nice to see it in a movie theater, because the best thing about seeing movies in a movie theater, it's not the big screen, which that's nice. It's not the sound design. It's not the 7.2 sound. It's the communal aspect of seeing a movie with, if you're lucky, 30, 40, 50, 100 people you don't know, or some of them you do know, and you have... I can still think of the movies I saw as a kid. I can still hear the laughter and the screaming from movies I saw when I was young, and that communal aspect of a movie going is so exciting. So I'm so thrilled you guys get to watch it on the big screen with people. That's what my producer who needed to do, and hopefully none of you are sober. And someday maybe it will be double billed with Santo versus Dr. Death. A very strong motion picture.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Well, Lee, thank you for joining the show, talking about this movie. We're so excited to screen it tonight. Like, we've been talking this movie up quite a bit in the past year since we've watched it. So
thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you. It makes my day. It really does. It's exciting that 25 years later, people are still talking about this silly movie.
Lee, obviously you said you're working on a new movie. How can people stay up to date with that movie?
It used to be so easy. I used to have a website. Yeah. No one has a website anymore. How do you tell me how am I supposed to? Like, I have a Facebook page and I have an Instagram page. I'm on Instagram. Lee Demarbre is on Instagram. There's my name right there. Just look up that name on Instagram, and then look up that name on Facebook. And that I post all the time. But is that enough? Like, I don't think I should get a website anymore.
Yeah, I think that's enough. I follow a lot of filmmakers on Instagram to keep up with what they're doing. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to Japan, and I'm going to post lots of pictures of me in Japan. I've actually shot a little bit for the new movie, and I did post. My father died recently, and I took my dad's car, instead of bringing it to the junkyard, we rolled it. we did this awesome stunt with my dad's car, and we rolled it and we shot a sequence, and it turned out really well. It's predicto, so there's posts of that. And I took some of my actors from my new movie to an acting class. I did 6 weeks of acting lessons with them, because it's important for them to think about the artistry of acting. They don't have to be good actors, but acting's an art form, and I want them to think about that stuff. So yeah, that's all on Instagram and Facebook. I don't know if there's a better way to promote my movies. On Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, we crucified a lesbian on the beach at the Cannes Film Festival. So I mean, maybe we can come up with something crazy like that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Lee, thank you again for joining us, and we hope everybody has a blast at the movie tonight. So thank you again, Lee.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Sam. I love what you're doing. I appreciate all the kind words. It means a lot. Thank you. Enjoy the movie, everybody.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.